On the day I almost died from heart failure, my wife tried to drain our bank account, but what she didn't know was that I had emptied it a week before. I woke up in a stark white room, the fluorescent light above me piercing and cold. The heart monitor beside me beeped steadily, each sound a reward for surviving the surgery. It was a winter morning in Charlotte, North Carolina. Snow still blanketed the hospital roof. The room was quiet. No flowers, no wife. Just a young nurse sitting nearby, offering me a faint, hesitant smile as I stirred awake. My name is Cole Bennett. I'm 38, a self-made financial investor. For years I believed I was the luckiest man alive. Stable career, cozy suburban home, and a wife that made other men jealous, Vanessa. She was sharp, charismatic, and effortlessly captivating. We had been married for 6 years. I never imagined that one day she'd be the first person hoping I wouldn't make it off that operating table. The first thing I reached for wasn't the nurse call button. It was my phone. Chloe, the nurse on duty, handed it to me with a strange look. 17 missed calls. All from one person, Vanessa. Her last text read, "Call me ASAP. This is an emergency." The problem was, I knew this emergency had nothing to do with my health. It had everything to do with the bank account I'd left, completely empty. While I was unconscious, clinging to life, Vanessa had walked into the bank and tried to withdraw every last dollar from our joint account. But what she found was nothing. I had quietly moved every cent into a private trust fund 1 week prior, with the help of my attorney. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because I knew, if I didn't act first, she would. I closed my eyes, not from exhaustion but from memory. I remembered the moment the doctor told me I needed emergency surgery. At first I thought I'd write a will, but then a different thought struck me. If I didn't wake up, every dollar would go to the woman who no longer loved me. And if I did wake up, I wanted to know whether her heart still beat for me, or only for the money. I never wrote the will. Instead, I wrote an email to Lucas, my closest friend and lawyer. Within 48 hours, he helped me transfer every asset to a new, untraceable trust. Vanessa never saw it coming. And honestly, I wasn't sure she'd care enough to ask. The nurse asked me if I wanted to make a phone call. I shook my head. I needed to think, go back to the beginning, to remember the moments when I first fell in love, and when I first started to feel something was wrong. Because to understand why she did what she did, I had to recall every early sign of betrayal. Betrayal never begins with a grand deception. It starts with tiny details, small enough to make you think you're just imagining things, until it's far too late. It was about 3 months before my surgery. A drizzling Thursday night. We were having dinner in our marble-tiled kitchen, soft golden light glowing over 2 plates of steaming pasta. Vanessa was talking about work. I smiled, nodded, pretended to listen. But after 15 minutes, I realized something strange. She hadn't looked at me once. Vanessa was the kind of woman who commanded every room she entered. When she laughed, people noticed. When she spoke, they listened. I used to admire that confidence. I used to feel lucky to call her my wife. But when a woman like that starts hiding things from you, it feels like you're living with a stranger wearing her face. The first red flag came the very next day. An email from the bank showed a purchase I didn't recognize. $4,870 at Bloomingdale's. I hadn't bought anything. I hadn't received any gift. When I asked Vanessa, she smiled lightly. It was for a VIP client. The company will reimburse me. Don't worry. Then she changed the subject before I could say another word. After that night, I started noticing things. Late-night meetings, texts arriving at 11 p.m., the same excuses again and again. I'm busy. I'll be home soon. Let's talk tomorrow. I logged into our joint bank account. Some transactions were missing. Deleted. Only the account administrator could do that. And that person was Vanessa. One night I decided to test something. While she was showering, I picked up her phone. The screen lit up with a message. Face ID not recognized. Enter passcode. She had changed it. A few months ago, we shared everything. Now, I wasn't even trusted with her screen lock. I didn't confront her. I didn't shout, accuse, or beg. Instead, I started saving every suspicious transaction, every missing dollar. Then I called Lucas Graves, my closest friend and attorney. I asked one question. If I wanted to protect my assets during a marriage, where would I start? He went quiet for 5 long seconds before replying. Do you want to protect them, Cole? Or do you want to prepare to leave? I didn't answer right away, because part of me still wanted to believe I was overthinking, that my wife was simply tired, overworked, distracted, that I was the problem for doubting her. But then, 1 month later, the doctor told me I needed emergency heart surgery. And that was when I knew. I couldn't risk dying with that kind of doubt still inside me. In 1 week, I prepared 2 things. Open heart surgery, and a financial trap for the woman I once loved more than my own life. 2 weeks before the surgery. Cardiology clinic, a chilly late November afternoon. The doctor's voice was gentle, but his words cut deeper than any scalpel. Cole, you need heart surgery as soon as possible. If not, it could kill you at any moment. I wasn't afraid of dying. What terrified me was dying and leaving everything to someone who didn't deserve it. For the first time in years, I called Lucas Graves, my college buddy, and now my financial attorney. Lucas didn't ask questions. He just told me to come to his office the next morning. We didn't shake hands, just a nod, the kind men give each other when they're about to do something irreversible. I had over $2 million sitting in our joint account, and if I died, Vanessa would legally inherit every penny. I couldn't let that happen. Lucas helped me set up a blind trust, registered under an anonymous offshore company in Delaware, completely legal. Every cent was transferred within 72 hours, funneled through multiple intermediary accounts. We left just enough in the joint account to keep up appearances. Vanessa suspected nothing. I still had dinner with her, still asked, "How was your day?" Still smiled like a clueless fool. But inside, I was no longer the same man. 3 days before the surgery, I told her, "The doctor says there's a problem with my heart. I'll be having surgery next week." She hugged me, cried, trembled. But as I opened my eyes mid-embrace, I saw hers. There was no sorrow in them, only calculation. I handed my phone and banking credentials to Chloe, the private nurse Lucas had arranged. She would hold them until I regained consciousness, to make sure no one could accidentally log in while I was sedated. I also wrote one final note for Lucas. If I don't wake up, follow the plan. If I do, I want to face the truth. I entered the OR at exactly 6:45 a.m. that Monday. Vanessa kissed my forehead and whispered, "I'll be waiting for you." I looked at her one last time and thought, that line doesn't work on me anymore. While I lay unconscious on the operating table, my heart sliced open. She was standing at the bank, trying to drain everything I had. Monday, 7 a.m. I was already in surgery. At the same time, just 4 blocks away at a Wells Fargo branch, Vanessa walked in, dressed professionally, tension in her jawline. In her hand, a bank authorization letter. In her eyes, the determination of someone about to do what had to be done. Vanessa, once my wife, once the person I trusted most, was now using my name to seize everything I'd built. What she didn't know was that every step she took had already been anticipated. My husband is in surgery. I need to withdraw all the funds from our joint account to cover hospital bills, she told the banker. The banker typed, paused, then looked at her with hesitation. "I'm sorry, but the current balance is $0.00." Vanessa froze. Trying to stay composed, she replied, "That can't be right. I saw the balance last week. It was over $2 million. The banker glanced back at the screen. There were several large transfers last week, but they weren't to any account under your name. Vanessa called me immediately. No answer. She called again, and again, 8 times. Then pulled out a second phone and called someone else. "He cleared it," she whispered over the line, panic leaking through her voice. "Damn it! I didn't think he was sharp enough to pull this. I thought I had at least a few days." She sank into a waiting room chair, hands trembling. She didn't know. I was still alive. Meanwhile, in post-op recovery, my eyes opened. Chloe, the private nurse, was checking my IV when she heard my phone vibrating non-stop. She glanced at the screen, then leaned over and whispered, 17 missed calls from Vanessa, and 2 more from an unknown number. I closed my eyes again, not from pain, but because now, I knew she really did it. She didn't shed a single tear at the hospital, but she nearly cried. At the bank. And that told me everything I needed to know. She walked into my hospital room with a warm smile and a bouquet of fresh flowers. But the only thing that had withered here was my trust in her. Charlotte Memorial Hospital, the evening after my surgery. Soft golden light filtered through the window, casting long shadows across my face. The room was quiet, save for the steady beep of the heart monitor. I wasn't waiting for the doctor. I was waiting for her. I, Cole Bennett, was alive, awake, and no longer the naive husband I used to be. Vanessa, the woman I once believed was my destiny, was walking toward me, light-footed, as if nothing had ever happened. "I've been so worried," she said, her voice trembling. She placed her hand over mine, eyes glistening with what looked like joy. But I saw nothing in them. Nothing but the lines of a well-rehearsed script. I stayed silent, letting her keep acting. She talked about how scared she was, how she hadn't slept, how she'd gone to the bank in case we needed to move me to a better hospital. Each word she spoke was like a dull blade, not sharp enough to cut, but dull enough to hurt. I nodded, then slowly reached for the phone beside me, the one Chloe had kept safe. I opened the photo folder and showed her a series of images auto-sent from my financial security system. Pictures of her at the bank, signing the withdrawal papers for our account, at the exact time I was being rolled into surgery. She froze, eyes wide. The performance ended. You spied on me?" she asked. I shook my head. "No, I just knew you well enough to predict what you'd do." She stood up, voice rising. "So this was all a trap?" I looked at her, calm. No, it wasn't a trap. I just stopped being stupid." Vanessa didn't say another word. She walked out, leaving behind the bouquet and that cold, expensive perfume. I turned my face toward the window. The sunlight had faded, and night was settling in. I didn't need to scream or force a confession. I just opened a laptop and let her unravel herself. 3 days after the confrontation in the hospital, I was still recovering, but my attorney, Lucas Graves, was already in motion. Vanessa had been invited to a private discussion at Lucas's office. She thought it was a negotiation. What she didn't know was that this meeting was more airtight than any courtroom. Lucas wasn't my old college buddy anymore. He was now the sharp, emotionless legal sword I'd hired to end things cleanly. Vanessa walked in with that confident smile, hair curled, Dior purse dangling on her shoulder. She thought this was just 2 grown-ups working things out. "I know you're angry," she began, "but I never meant to steal anything." I was scared. "I thought you wouldn't survive." Lucas placed a laptop on the table, turned the screen toward her. He said nothing. On screen, 6 months' worth of account statements, hidden transfers, shell accounts, circular transactions. All traced back to one name, Vanessa's cousin, employed at her marketing firm. "You thought I wouldn't notice?" I asked softly. She froze. Her face fell apart. No words, no defense. Lucas slid another folder across the table, the divorce papers, and a financial misconduct complaint. "What do you want?" she asked, visibly shaken for the first time. "Everything," I replied. "The house, the car, the stocks, they're all in my name." "You get nothing. But I won't press criminal charges, if you sign." Her hands trembled. Her eyes weren't angry anymore, just empty. I left the office first, didn't look back. Lucas would handle the rest. I didn't need to see her sign, because in my heart, I'd already signed her out long ago. That afternoon it rained in Charlotte. I sat alone in my car, watching raindrops slide down the windshield. No pain, no relief, just finality. Some trials need lawyers, some need witnesses, Mine only needed her silence. Charlotte Civil Court, 8 a.m. Tuesday morning. Courtroom number 3, quiet, sterile. No reporters, no outsiders. Just me, Vanessa, 2 attorneys, and a middle-aged judge. It drizzled outside. Inside, a marriage ended without a single tear. Vanessa wore a gray blazer. No makeup, hair tied back. Expression frozen. She didn't look at me, not once. I kept my eyes forward, as if the woman sitting just 10 feet away had never been my wife for 6 years. The judge asked, "Does the respondent have any objection to the unilateral divorce petition and the motion to retain all current assets?" Vanessa's lawyer gave a small nod. "My client does not contest." No defense, no explanations. Lucas presented the file. Hidden transactions, shell accounts, proof of financial exploitation during a medical emergency. The judge flipped through the pages without a single question. None needed. The truth was plain to see. The court grants the petition for divorce. All current assets remain with the petitioner. No division of property. The ruling echoed in the room. Vanessa lowered her head. I didn't turn toward her. I just exhaled, quietly, but deeply. We left the courthouse through separate exits. I walked out the front. She slipped through the back. No one called after the other. No one paused. On my way to the parking lot, a courthouse staffer asked, "She really didn't say anything?" I smiled. She didn't have to. I heard everything, in her silence. My heart still beats after the surgery, but it no longer beats for what once broke me. 1 year after the divorce, autumn in Charlotte, the leaves falling softly outside the window. I sit inside my small office, not as a venture capitalist, but as the founder of a financial recovery program called Reclaim, where the betrayed rebuild their lives. I'm Cole Bennett, 39, a survivor of open-heart surgery and a broken marriage. I no longer wear designer suits or flaunt Rolexes. Today, I wear linen shirts and drink cheap coffee, but I'm free. And for the first time in years, I'm at peace. A client walks in, a middle-aged woman clutching a divorce file. Her husband sold off her shares behind her back and disappeared. Her voice shakes, her eyes are lost. I see myself, 1 year ago, in her. I listen. I don't interrupt. When she asks, "Do you think I can still start over?" I smile and reply, "I once lost everything, while lying on an operating table. But from that rock bottom, I built it all again." I never mention names, just the journey. She tears up, not from pain, but from finally hearing, "You deserve to live again." I hand her a folder: legal strategies, financial rebuild plan, emotional recovery. Not to fight anyone, but to reclaim herself. She leaves with a different look in her eyes. Not broken, but becoming whole again. I walk to the door and watch her go. Leaves falling, sunlight soft. Life, moving forward. I no longer have a heart for the past, because I've given it to those still trying to heal from the kind of pain that almost killed me. I was once a victim. Now, I'm living proof that betrayal may ruin a part of your life, but it can never steal your future.